and stop the sharing. So I've sought to present to you 5 compelling patterns for hybrid modeling. These patterns share a common element of weaving together, taking advantage of metalinguistic abstraction, choosing what language we use to describe different pieces of a system, and weaving together pieces that are best described in one framework, say discrete event simulation, and another, say agent-based model, or another, say system dynamics, stock and flow modeling. Weave them together in creative ways. But equally important, weave them together in nimble ways. Weave them together in a way that allows evolution, what's represented using one tradition, one type of language versus another. So we might have people represented upstream as system dynamics until the point of infection. But then we find we really need to represent better contact tracing and risk behavior a bit upstream. So now we push upstream to represent people as agents and who are engaged in risk behavior. But we don't represent the whole population as agents, but we push it upstream. We can change that boundary. We can change the boundary of what's represented as agents versus in discrete event simulation and capture more structured workflows, for example. Nimbleness is often a key virtue when we're seeking to learn in modeling, because learning involves iterating, involves refining our thinking, and with that, our models. So this ability to weave together multiple modeling types is more than a convenience. It's more than a luxury. It affords us a degree of agility in our learning that's to be prized. And that's central to the enterprise of modeling. But alas, I've said too much, and tempus fugit, time flies here. I'd like to provide just a few closing remarks, if I may, on this bootcamp. The bootcamp has covered a broad set of materials related to agent-based and hybrid modeling. It has of necessity been brief in its covering of many deeper topics, calibration today, hybrid modeling, another, issues having to do with bringing together data and models. We saw glimpses in the calibration, we saw glimpses in the GIS, but there's so many topics to be talked about. I gave brief reference to some of the challenges of bringing together evidence as might be secured with statistical studies and using it to inform elements of progression and models. But there's much more to be learned in each of those spaces. But for 1 week, I think we haven't done badly. But we haven't done badly because of your efforts, because of the efforts of those in the room. And I appreciate your persistence, your patience, and your steadfastness with this. I'm also quite excited to see the incubator projects go forward, and I'm desirous of quickly breaking so that we can reconvene to add impetus to this. I do want to say, though, this is a deep area. Mastery of modeling, I find, inevitably takes some element of apprenticeship. It is possible that a modeler might like Athena be full-born from Zeus's head. A modeler might be self-educated, but very common and autodidact, but very common in my experience. A modeler requires a bit of incubation and oversight and seeing many models. And I hope this bootcamp has given you a glimpse of some useful elements to speed you on your way, however far or however little you go in modeling. I'm glad to continue to share the resources. I sometimes get asked, will these resources be available? I seek to make them perpetually available, for others. And, the recordings likewise. I have, always forsaken, any monetization opportunities, considerable though they are from on YouTube videos, to make sure they're free of the sort of ads which, so bedevil many other, productions. So we'll be keeping the videos online as well. But it has been, I think a good week in exploring a lot of the basics, and it points towards deeper learning in one area or the other. I sometimes get asked, what's the next step? How can I learn more? As I say, apprenticeship is a big part of it. Getting experience with many models and model projects, the incubators, and indeed next week's hackathon for some will be very helpful in those regards. For those who are interested in a little bit more, I do teach full semester courses on these topics. I teach every year, and have for many years, a course on all three types that includes all three types of modeling, but as noted earlier, special focus on system dynamics and agent-based modeling that is taught at a graduate and undergraduate level. And if anyone's interested in that, it will begin the week after next. Out of the boot camp into the hackathon and into the semester. I'm looking forward to it, and if anyone's interested, we've sometimes have had people from the boot camp who either sit in or take that course for credit. Beyond these, I'd like to recommend there's a good course in agent-based modeling run by Volker Grimm at Humboldt State University, CSU, Cal State University, Humboldt in California, which is in NetLogo. And I've heard many good things about that course, and I recommend it. Those who are familiar with the Santa Fe Institute will perhaps recognize that name as offering a course on complex systems methods. And I also recommend Scott Page's course on model thinking, which is available on Coursera. I have last year and will teach again a full semester agent-based modeling class that I'm in the process of elaborating. And if anyone's interested in that, really going deep on agent-based modeling, that's also an option. I will say this. I've mentioned the importance for those getting interested in agent-based modeling to try to get involved in projects. And I further conveyed from this floor my conviction, born by the crucible of years of experience with modeling, nay, 3 decades of experience. 3+ decades now, that there's this need to help teams succeed. It's not about becoming an Uber modeler. It's about helping teams thrive and working on a cross-disciplinary or interdisciplinary and eventually transdisciplinary basis, using models to help facilitate that communication where possible as boundary objects, to use the term I introduced earlier and which Eric mentioned yesterday. And if anyone's interested in that, I will note that my undergrad modeling course, which many here have taken, and others have taken in graduate form. I think all the TAs have taken in graduate form. That modeling course does have course projects, and we in fact solicit course projects for that course. I send around information to stakeholders saying, "Hey, do you have ideas for course projects I could offer to students?" And it involves partnership with students and student teams, sometimes 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 individuals. Harriet, Mattias, are recently explored projects in that course, and to good end. Those projects have have given a lot of insight. And I would recommend if anyone's interested, not so much as a modeler, but as a team member for modeler, maybe supervising a modeling project, maybe working as part of the modeling project, being a consumer of models and being an informed giving feedback on models. That's a great opportunity to have a full semester course to explore some ideas with a modeler, and often it secures the involvement, like with Harriet and Matthias, of the very best of the students in that course. I think I'll leave my comments there. It's been a tremendous pleasure and wonderful opportunity to interact with everyone. I am wondering if we should get a picture, a group picture. What do you think? Is that possible? If we could get people online to reveal your faces, it would be especially meaningful to do that. And I will stop the recording.